He shoved a 70-year-old war veteran on live stream for laughs. 3,000 people watched. Emojis flooded the screen, and then 60 Harley engines roared to life across the street. What happened next wasn't revenge. It was something far more terrifying. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button because you're about to witness something powerful. This isn't just about bikers, it's about brotherhood, justice, and what happens when a kid who lives for likes meets men who live by loyalty. Now let's get into the story. The late afternoon sun hung low over Route 66, casting long shadows across the annual Jurists Convention Center. Chrome glinted in the parking lot across the street. Rows of Harleys lined up like silent sentinels, their engines cold but ready. The kind of bikes that don't just roll down highways, they command them. Inside the convention center, 70-year-old Mr. Elton adjusted his weathered biker jacket and nodded politely to the event coordinator. His hands, calloused from decades of turning wrenches and gripping handlebars, rested calmly at his sides. He wasn't the kind of man who needed to announce himself. His presence did that for him. 3 tours overseas, 30 years fixing bikes for veterans who couldn't afford mechanics. A mentor to men who'd lost their way and found it again on 2 wheels. Tonight, they were honoring him. But Mr. Elton never cared much for awards. Respect isn't something you hang on a wall, he'd told Brando once. It's what people feel when you walk into a room. Across the street, Brando sat on his bike, arms crossed, watching. Next to him, Big Wolf cracked his knuckles and checked his watch. Ken leaned back against his seat, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses but trained on the convention center entrance. 60 riders, all waiting, not for trouble, for their brother. They'd come to escort Mr. Elton to his award dinner the way brothers do together, proud and ready to defend what matters. But they didn't know that just outside the convention center doors, someone was about to test exactly what that meant. Jamie set his phone against the planter box, angling it just right to catch the golden hour light. 22 years old, 2 million followers, and 0 sense of consequence. His live stream notification lit up screens across 3 time zones. Prank time, y'all. Within seconds, comments flooded in. Bro, do it. This gon' be wild. Tag me when it drops. Jamie grinned at the camera, that cocky smirk he'd perfected in 1,000 videos. The kind of grin that said he'd never been held accountable for anything in his life. All right, check this out, he whispered, barely containing his laughter. Old dude just came out. Watch me mess with him. Mr. Elton stepped into the sunlight, shielding his eyes for just a moment. He spotted the young man with the phone and offered a polite nod, the kind of kindness that comes naturally to men who've seen too much cruelty to add more to the world. Jamie saw an opportunity. Hey, Grandpa, he called out, loud enough for the phone to pick up. How's retirement treating you? Still milking those government checks? Laughter crackled through his earbuds from the live stream chat. Mr. Elton paused. His expression didn't harden. It softened the way a father looks at a child who doesn't yet understand the lesson coming. Son, he said quietly, I worked for every breath you're taking right now. Jamie wasn't listening. He mimed a wobble, pretended to stumble, and shoved the old man backward. The chair behind Mr. Elton clattered to the ground. His jacket sleeve caught on the armrest. For a moment, the 70-year-old veteran, the man who'd survived war, loss, and decades of keeping broken things running, struggled to steady himself. The live stream exploded. Laughing emojis, crying faces, flame icons. Jamie threw his head back, cackling. Yo, did you see that? And then, silence. Not from the viewers, from the street. The air shifted, the kind of shift you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. One engine rumbled to life, then another. then 60 more. The sound rolled through the plaza like thunder trapped in steel, deep, guttural, unstoppable. Jamie's grin faltered. He turned. Across the street, a wall of leather and chrome was moving toward him, slow, deliberate. 60 Harleys rolling in formation, riders staring straight ahead, patches gleaming in the dying light. At the front, Brando sat tall in his saddle, grey beard catching the wind, eyes locked on the kid with the phone. The comments on Jamie's live stream changed fast. "Bro, behind you. Those are hells. Angels. Stop, stop, stop. You're done, bro." Jamie's hand trembled as he reached for his phone. But the bikes kept coming. 60 brothers, 60 engines, and one rule they all lived by. You don't disrespect a man who built the road you're standing on. The engines cut. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't empty. It was heavy. The bikes formed a semicircle around the plaza entrance, not blocking it, just present. The way mountains are present, undeniable. Jamie's phone was still live. 3,000 viewers watched as Brando swung his leg off his Harley and walked forward. No rush, no theatrics. Just boots on pavement and the weight of 30 years wearing a patch that meant something. "You know what you just did?" Brando's voice was calm, the kind of calm that makes your stomach drop. Jamie's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Behind Brando, Big Wolf cracked his neck. Ken adjusted his sunglasses. 57 other riders stayed mounted, arms crossed, silent as tombstones. "That man," Brando said, pointing to Mr. Elton, who was now standing upright, brushing off his jacket with quiet dignity, "built half the bikes you see here. Taught us what honor means when we came back from war with nothing but rage and questions." The live stream chat went silent. No emojis, no jokes. Just 3,000 people watching a 22-year-old influencer realize he'd crossed a line he didn't know existed. I didn't," Jamie stammered. "No, you didn't." Brando stepped closer. "You didn't think, didn't ask, didn't care." Mr. Elton raised a hand. "Brando." The president stopped, turned, waited. "He's just a boy," Mr. Elton said quietly. "Scared, confused, like we all were once." Big Wolf grunted. "We didn't push old men for laughs." "No," Mr. Elton agreed. "But we did things we regret. And someone gave us a chance to be better." The tension hung in the air like gasoline fumes. Brando looked back at Jamie. His expression didn't soften, but something shifted in his eyes. Not mercy, purpose. He walked to Jamie's phone, still propped against the planter, still streaming. He picked it up, stared directly into the camera. "To everyone watching," he said, "this is what happens when you forget respect. Not violence, not revenge, consequence." He ended the stream. The screen went black. Jamie's legs nearly gave out. Brando handed him the phone. "Tomorrow morning, Route 66 Veterans Shelter, 6 a.m. sharp. Bring work gloves." "What?" Jamie's voice cracked. "You heard me." Brando turned to walk back to his bike, then stopped. "We don't need your apology, kid. We need your effort." The engines roared back to life. One by one, the Harleys pulled away, escorting Mr. Elton down the street toward the convention hall. The sound faded into the distance like a sermon delivered and heard. Jamie stood alone in the plaza, phone in hand, the golden hour sun now gone. His notifications exploded. Texts, DMs, sponsors dropping him in real time. But all he could hear was Brando's voice. "We need your effort." Somewhere in his chest, beneath the fear and humiliation, something unfamiliar stirred. Accountability, and he had no idea what it was about to cost him. Orsave. 20 miles outside town, the convoy pulled into a gravel lot behind Mac's Diner, the kind of place where the coffee's always hot and the pie's always homemade. Chrome reflected off neon signs. Engines ticked as they cooled. Inside, Brando sat across from Mr. Elton in a corner booth. Big Wolf and Ken joined them, boots scraping against worn linoleum. "You think he'll show?" Ken asked, stirring sugar into black coffee. Mr. Elton smiled faintly. "He'll show. And if he doesn't?" Big Wolf's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Then we tried." Mr. Elton's eyes held something the younger men were still learning. Patience forged in fire. "That's all we ever do. Try." Brando leaned back, arms crossed. "You gave us the same chance, back when we came home, angry." It was 1978. Brando had just returned from Vietnam. 23 years old with a Purple Heart and a drinking problem. He'd stumbled into Mr. Elton's garage looking for work, reeking of whiskey and rage. Mr. Elton handed him a wrench. "Fix that carburetor, then we'll talk." Brando fixed it. Then another. Then another. 6 months later, he was sober. A year later, he wore his first patch. Big Wolf had a similar story. So did Ken. So did half the men riding tonight. Mr. Elton didn't just fix bikes. He fixed men. "The code," Mr. Elton said, tapping his knuckles on the table, "isn't about being tough. It's about being present, showing up when no one's watching, doing right when it costs you something." Ken nodded. "Brotherhood, justice," Big Wolf added. "Service," Brando finished. The waitress, an older woman named Dolly who'd known them all for decades, refilled their cups without asking. "You boys do good tonight?" "Tried to," Mr. Elton said. She patted his shoulder. "That's all anyone can do, sugar." Meanwhile, across town, Jamie sat in his apartment, staring at his phone. His follow account was dropping. Sponsors sent identical emails. "We no longer align with your brand values." His brand values. He didn't even know what those were. He pulled up the video, watched himself push the old man, saw the engines roar to life, heard Brando's voice. "We need your effort." Jamie had never worked a day in his life. Not really. Content creation wasn't work. It was performance, smoke and mirrors. But tomorrow he'd have to show up, face them, face himself. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. Sleep didn't come easy, but for the first time in years, he didn't check his phone before bed. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell he'd gotten himself into, and whether he'd survive it. The Route 66 Veterans Shelter sat on the edge of town where the highway met the old rail yard, weathered brick, American flags snapping in the morning wind, rows of motorcycles already parked outside at 5:45 a.m. Jamie pulled up at 5:58, hands gripping his steering wheel like a lifeline. He hadn't brought work gloves. Big Wolf spotted him first. Leaned against the garage door, coffee mug in hand, watching Jamie climb out of his car in designer sneakers and a hoodie that cost more than most of these men made in a week. "You're late," Big Wolf said. "It's 2 minutes to 6. If you're not early, you're late." Big Wolf set his mug down and tossed Jamie a pair of stained leather gloves. "Garage, 3rd bay. Oil needs scrubbing. Buckets by the drain. No welcome. No handshake. Just work." Jamie walked inside. The garage smelled like motor oil, old coffee, and something else he couldn't name. Purpose, maybe, or history. Men moved around him like he wasn't there. Veterans with missing limbs tuned carburetors. Older bikers welded exhaust pipes. Someone laughed at a joke Jamie didn't hear. He found the bucket, the brush, the oil stain that looked like it had been there since 1972. He knelt, started scrubbing. 5 minutes in, his knees hurt. 10 minutes in, his back ached. 15 minutes in, he realized no one was watching. No cameras, no comments, no validation. Just him and a stain that wouldn't budge. Behind him, 2 men talked in low voices. "Lost my brother in Fallujah," one said. "Still see his face some nights." "Mine was Kandahar, IED, 23 years old." Jamie kept scrubbing. You ever tell anyone? The first man asked. Who would understand? Civilians think we're heroes or monsters, never just men. Jamie's hands slowed. He'd never lost anyone, never fought for anything, never stood for anything except views and likes and a follow account that meant nothing the moment it started dropping. At noon, Mr. Elton walked through the garage. He paused by Jamie's bay, looked down at the half-cleaned floor, and said nothing. Just placed a bottle of water next to the bucket and kept walking. No praise, no jugement, just presence. Jamie unscrewed the cap and drank. His hands were blistered, his hoodie was ruined, his knees were screaming, but he picked up the brush and kept going. Because for the first time in his life, quitting felt worse than finishing. And somewhere in the back of the garage, Big Wolf allowed himself the smallest smile. The kid showed up. That was step one. By day 3, Jamie stopped checking his phone. Not because he wanted to, because his hands hurt too much to hold it. Blisters had formed, popped, and formed again. His nails were black with grease. His designer sneakers were destroyed. But something else was happening. He was starting to hear them. The veterans, the bikers, the families. Wednesday afternoon, Big Wolf's wife, Maria, arrived with 2 crock-pots of chili and a stack of paper bowls. Behind her, their granddaughter Sophia carried a box of cornbread wrapped in foil. "Lunch!" Maria called out, and the garage transformed. Tools went down. Hands were washed. Men gathered around folding tables set up outside under a sun-bleached awning. Jamie hung back. Uncertain. You eat, don't you? Ken's voice startled him. Yeah, I just... Then eat. Ken handed him a bowl. No one gets left out here. That's the rule. Jamie took the bowl and sat on an overturned crate at the edge of the group. He watched Sophia carefully carry a bowl to Mr. Elton, her small hands steady with practiced care. "Grandpa says you're a hero," she whispered loud enough for others to hear. Mr. Elton's weathered face softened. He crouched to her level. "We're all heroes, sweetheart. Anyone who still believes in kindness." Sophia beamed and ran back to her grandmother. Jamie watched the way Maria ruffled her granddaughter's hair, the way Big Wolf wrapped an arm around his wife's waist and kissed her temple, the way veterans who'd seen hell laughed over chili like it was the best meal they'd ever had. This wasn't a biker gang. This was a family. That evening, a volunteer named Carla snapped a photo without thinking. Just Jamie, kneeling beside Mr. Elton, learning how to gap spark plugs, both of them focused, both of them present. She posted it to the shelter's page with a simple caption, "Everyone deserves a second chance." Within an hour, it had 50 shares. By morning, 500. The comments rolled in, "Is that the kid from the video? Maybe people can change. My husband rides with these guys." Proud moment. Jamie saw none of it. He was too busy learning that respect isn't performed. It's earned. One spark plug at a time. Friday night. The garage was quiet except for the hum of a single work light and the clink of tools against metal. Mr. Elton sat on a stool, rebuilding a transmission from a '74 shovel head. Jamie sat across from him, holding parts as instructed, asking questions he never would have thought to ask a week ago. "Why do you do this?" Jamie finally asked. "The shelter, the bikes, all of it." Mr. Elton didn't look up. His hands moved with the precision of a man who'd done this 10,000 times. "You ever hear silence, son? Real silence?" Jamie frowned. "Like quiet? No, silence." Mr. Elton set down his wrench. "The kind that fills your head after you lose someone. After the gunfire stops and you realize your brother isn't moving. That kind of silence." Jamie's throat tightened. "I came home in '73, Mr. Elton continued. 3 tours. Lost more friends than I care to count. Came back to a country that didn't want to look at us. We were reminders of a war they wanted to forget." He picked up a bolt, examined it, set it aside. "So I found the only family that understood. Men on bikes, men who knew what silence sounded like. We built something, not to escape, to heal. Jamie looked down at his blistered hands. I built a whole career on being seen, he said quietly, but I never let anyone actually see me. Mr. Elton finally looked up. His eyes held no judgment, only recognition. Son, we all want to be seen. The trick is being remembered for something worth seeing. Ken walked over, wiping his hands on a rag. Carburetor's done. You want to teach the kid to mount it? Mr. Elton nodded. For the next hour, Jamie learned. Not for a video, not for followers, just to know. And when he finally mounted the carburetor correctly, no help, no guidance, just memory and focus, something shifted in his chest. Pride, not the hollow kind from likes and comments, the real kind, the kind that comes from doing something right. Later, as Jamie was leaving, he noticed an old wheelchair by the side door. One wheel wobbled badly. He stopped, looked back at the garage. No one was watching. He knelt, found a wrench, tightened the bolts, tested the wheel. Fixed. He stood and walked to his car. Behind him, through the garage window, Mr. Elton watched and smiled. The kid was learning, not how to perform, how to care. Sunday morning, Jamie stood on the same plaza steps where it all began. Same sunlight, same phone, different man. Mr. Elton stood beside him, hands in his pockets, calm as still water. Jamie tapped the screen, went live. 12 people joined immediately, then 50, then hundreds. The algorithm remembered him. So did the audience. Is this a joke? Bro's about to get wrecked again? I'm here for the drama. Jamie took a breath. His hands weren't shaking. That surprised him. Last week, he began, voice steady, I stood in this exact spot and disrespected a man who deserved better. I did it for laughs, for content, for attention I didn't earn. The comments slowed. People were listening. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to make it right. He turned to Mr. Elton. This man is a veteran, a mechanic, a mentor. He spent 50 years helping people who couldn't help themselves. And when I pushed him, when I humiliated him, he didn't ask for revenge. He asked for something harder. Jamie faced the camera again. He asked me to show up. The view count climbed. 1,000, 2,000. For the past week, I've worked at the Route 66 Veterans Shelter. I've scrubbed floors, fixed bikes, listened to stories from men who've seen things I can't imagine. And I learned something. He paused. Respect isn't something you perform. It's something you earn, one day at a time, one choice at a time. The comments changed. Wait, he's serious. I didn't expect this. Okay, I'm listening. So here's what I'm doing. Jamie continued. Every dollar donated in the next 24 hours goes directly to this shelter. Not to me, not to my brand, to the men and women who actually serve this community. He held up a handwritten sign with the donation link. Mr. Elton stepped forward. I want to say something, he said, and the chat exploded. It's him, the veteran. Respect. This young man made a mistake, Mr. Elton said calmly, but he didn't run from it. He faced it. That takes more courage than most people ever show. He placed a hand on Jamie's shoulder. When a biker becomes your friend, he's your friend forever. Not because it's easy, because it's right. The donations started immediately. 50美元, 100美元, 500美元. Within an hour, $3,000. Within 3 hours, $7,000. By midnight, $12,847. And comments from across the country, riding from Texas tomorrow to drop off supplies. My dad's a vet. Thank you for this. This is what America should look like. Jamie watched the numbers climb, and for the first time in his life, success felt like something more than a number. It felt like purpose. Saturday afternoon, Route 66 stretched out like a ribbon of memory under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. 60 Harleys lined up outside the shelter, chrome gleaming, engines rumbling low. Brando at the front, Big Wolf and Ken flanking him. Behind them, riders from 3 states who'd heard the story and come to be part of it. And at the back, on a borrowed bike, Jamie adjusted his borrowed helmet and tried to steady his breathing. Mr. Elton walked down the line, shaking hands, nodding to old friends. When he reached Jamie, he stopped. "You ready?" Jamie looked at the bike. The road. The brothers waiting. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. "None of us did at first." Mr. Elton tapped the gas tank. "That's not what matters. What matters is you showed up." Brando raised his hand. The engines revved in unison, a sound like controlled thunder. Then they rolled. Slow at first, through town, past Mac's diner, where Dolly waved from the window, past the old rail yard, out onto the open highway where the wind was clean and the horizon went on forever. Jamie had never felt anything like it. Not followers, not fame, not validation from strangers. This was belonging. They passed through a small town. On the sidewalk, an elderly man in a wheelchair raised his hand in salute. Without a word, 60 riders slowed, returned the gesture, rode on. Jamie's throat tightened. He finally understood what they'd been trying to teach him. Power isn't for loom. It's presence. Respect isn't demanded. It's given. And brotherhood isn't a brand. It's a promise. As the sun dropped low, casting everything in gold, Brando looked back over his shoulder, caught Jamie's eye, gave a single nod. "You're one of us now." The convoy rolled into the sunset like a hymn no one needed to sing, because some truths don't need words. They just need witnesses. 6 months later, the Route 66 Veterans Shelter had a new roof, fresh paint, a full garage stocked with tools and parts donated from across the country. The fundraiser Jamie started that day on the plaza steps had become an annual event, the Road of Respect Ride. Last year, it raised $47,000. Jamie still showed up every Saturday. No cameras, no streams, just work. He taught younger volunteers how to gap spark plugs, change oil, and more importantly, how to listen. One afternoon, a reporter from a national magazine showed up. "What's the secret?" she asked Mr. Elton. "How do you change someone?" Mr. Elton smiled, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee Dolly had poured him. "You don't change anyone," he said. "You just show them what they already are. We're all capable of honor. Most people just forget how to find it." The reporter turned to Jamie. "And you, what did you learn?" Jamie thought for a long moment. "I learned that respect costs nothing, but it can change everything." The article ran 3 weeks later. It went viral, not because of scandal or shock, because it reminded people what America could be when it chooses to. That evening, as the sun painted Route 66 inches shades of amber and rust, Brando fired up his bike. Big Wolf and Ken followed. Mr. Elton climbed on behind Brando, settling in like he'd done 1,000 times before. Jamie pulled on his helmet, his own bike now, earned, not given. They rolled out together, 60 engines, 60 brothers. The sound faded into the distance. A reminder, a promise, a legacy. Real power doesn't shout, it rides quietly. And it leaves the world better than it found it. If you believe that respect costs nothing but can change everything, and that real power doesn't shout, it rides quietly then. Like and share this story so more people can feel what brotherhood really means. Subscribe now for more stories about loyalty, justice, and the men who remind us what America stands for. And don't leave yet. Check out the 2 videos showing on your screen right now, specially crafted for you.